he was holding her hand. And then once she said that, he was like, get off me, get off of me. He couldn't even look at her. Hi guys, it's either welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Kiosha. I'm a lawyer that doesn't practice. I'm a mid-level government bureaucrat, and I am a moonlighter in creativity. And today I am reviewing episode 6 of season 13 of Married at First Sight, Houston. And it's been a very boring season, if I'm being honest. Extremely boring, but it's like the episodes are boring, but the flash forwards for the next episodes or the rest of the season are super entertaining. So maybe we can get a little entertainment, soon, who knows. But how I'm going to start is I'm going to go couple by couple. I know the show jumps around, but the only way I feel like I can do this in a uniform way is to go couple by couple. So I'm going to go couple by couple, then I'm going to talk about the group outings, and then I'm going to talk about the flash forward for the next episode. Okay, so to Gil and Myrla, I honestly do appreciate their playful banter and how they can kind of joke back and forth. Of course, Myrla likes things how she likes them, and she is very firm, but I think it shows that she's, that she doesn't take herself too seriously. Like, he can be like, oh, you're a spoiled brat, and she'll laugh it off, and then she'll throw something back at him. So I like that. I feel like, she's given a little bit of effort. Gil brought up the name changes at the top of the episode, and she was not into it, and I don't really think she had any plans to change her name. Clearly it's something that's really important to Gil, and so he kind of kept pressing the issue, and it basically comes out that she wants to keep her last name to honor her dad. And I don't know if you guys know or if you remember, but her dad was like tragically stabbed to death when she was young. So I could get her kind of want to keep his name and to memorialize that and to kind of keep the legacy going. And so Gil was like, well, can we compromise? Can you hyphenate? Which is fair. If you don't want to give up your last name, cool, we'll just move it to your middle. Let's hyphenate. And she did not really seem to be too interested in that either. But they did agree to table that discussion and to move on and to discuss it at a later time. And so the next scene kind of cuts to them being on the beach, and of course Myrla is doing what she does best, and she's complaining about the beach being hot. Someone who works at the resort brings them ice cream, and they're just kind of hanging out. Y'all, Myrla whines so much. She whines so much that it is really annoying to me. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to handle it. But basically, she was going in and whining so much that he stops her and he goes, well, how did you grow up? Tell me how you grew up. I just kind of want to get some insight into why you are like this. And she tells him she grew up poor, like really poor. Her and her family, they all basically lived in like a one-bedroom house or apartment. And he said, something similar, that he also grew up poor, but that he didn't really realize it because he had everything he needed. He had food and stuff. But, objectively, they were very poor. And so he mentioned that he grew up as an only child, but he had siblings. So I'd be a little, interested to see maybe what that's about, a little backstory on that. And that takes them to the conversation about children. And Gil said he wants 7 or 8 kids. 7 or 8 children. Ooh. And I know Myrla said earlier in the season she wanted like 2. And so she was just kind of like, absolutely not. Like, divorce, check, divorce. But I can get that. Like, 8 kids, who's gonna have 8 kids? And he said, well, that we could adopt. So like, we could have a couple of our own, and we could also adopt. And she was still like, no, that's too much. And basically her thing was, I want to be able to take care of my kids and give my children everything that I never had. I never want them to feel like I felt growing up. And she said that it would be challenging to do that with 7 or 8 children, which, you know, I actually understand her on that tip. There's a lot of kids. It's a lot of mouths to feed. There's a lot of people to clothe. It's a lot of attention to give to 8 individuals that you are sculpting into what you hope to be a decent human. So, you know, I got her on that. But then I get Gil too, you know, wanting a big family. I don't want a big family, but, you know, I can get it, you know. And so they pulled the next scene kind of, like I said, I'm going straight through each couple. So even though things happen at different times in the episode, I'm just going to go straight through each couple. So they pulled up on Zack at his balcony, and I thought that was really thoughtful of them and a really sweet gesture. Rachel and Jose were there too, and they asked him how he was doing, how things were going, and you know, Zack's whole spiel, basically that he misses Michaela and that he feels bad and that he hopes she doesn't resent him. And it's like, you are acting like you went out and got COVID on purpose. You are acting like you went out and got this life-threatening virus on purpose. You know, like, calm down, give yourself a little bit of grace. You caught it, try to get well. And then same thing for Michaela, and I have something to say about her a little later, but you know, yes, it sucks that you guys are missing like 2 weeks from one another, but it is what it is. You know, make the best of it. FaceTime, talk on the phone, do whatever you have to do, and then get back to business, right? So yeah, they pulled up on him. They were just checking on him, seeing how he was doing. It cuts to a scene where Myrla decides to surprise Gil. And she basically got him like this platter of chocolate chip cookies. They looked delightful, by the way. And she basically said like, hey, I wanted to do this for you because you're always so patient with me. And you know, I appreciate that. So it's like, I do think she's a nice person. And I do think she's trying. I still don't think she's a good candidate for the show, but you can tell she's putting in effort. And Gil appreciated it. He said that that shows him that she's paying attention to like what he says and the things that he likes. So he really appreciated that. And then we get to the whammy of, well, no, not the entire episode, but it was a pretty big deal. Gil brought up his dog, and you could see it on her face. If looks could kill, she was just looking like, yuck, no. And she basically said, well, listen, that's your dog. You're gonna walk it, you're gonna pick up its poop. I'm not really gonna have a hand in that. And you could tell he was really disappointed. Like, it looked like he had just lost his best friend when she said that to him. You know, really? And so he basically was like, well, listen, I'm a firefighter. I work 2 24-hour shifts a week. You know, who's gonna walk the dog? And she said, well, who walks it now? And basically somebody in his apartment complex walks the dog. And she was like, well, that's it. We could just get a dog walker. And he basically said, like, that's a waste of money. First of all, we're going to be in another apartment. So my dog walker now isn't going to travel to that apartment. And I just think it's a waste when you're there in the apartment with the dog. And she basically said, well, I feel like you're just forcing responsibility on me. Child, he told her, you know, with this coming out, with this being said, he said, this is going to make it hard for me to want to get to know you further. And I said, well, that is a lot, because Gil has been so patient. He's compromised. He's tried to make her comfortable. He's tried to bring her out of her shell. And he drew a very firm line. So either she's going to start to become a little more open and work a little harder, or this will be the beginning of him shutting down. Because it can't only be one person putting in and giving everything and then not getting anything back. Now, yes, she has made some sweet gestures, but this dog is something that is very serious to him. And so I feel like since it's something so high on his list of needs, she's gonna have to figure out a way to compromise. And if not, you know, on top of everything, I do think Gil is gonna shut down. And if he shuts down, it's not gonna go anywhere, you know, because he's pushing the train. So on to Rachel and Jose. I feel about the same with them. They are really affectionate. They kiss each other just straight up, waking up, morning breath and all. I like what Rachel is doing. It almost seems like if you're looking at it, depending on how you're looking at it, it could seem like she's just being annoying, constantly asking questions. But what she is doing is she is attempting to open the lines of communication. And she's trying to be different than how she has been in her past. So I actually like that. But basically, Jose makes plans for them to ride bikes, and it comes out that this girl does not know how to ride a bike. So he takes her out, and she's a natural. She learns it really quickly, and they take this cute bike ride. And I want to go on a bike ride on the beach. That was so cute. They take this cute bike ride. Oh, before they go out, Rachel made a list of questions. And she asked him what some things were that he wanted to be able to do before they had kids, before kids come along. And she said for her, you know, she wants to take a big trip to, where did she say? Switzerland? Did she say Switzerland? Maybe. Yeah, she said Switzerland. And he was like, ooh, like the look on his face was like, ooh, what? And he basically, like, he's a frugal guy. He was basically like, that's really expensive. That's a really expensive trip. And so he was like, maybe instead of Switzerland, you know, we can maybe talk about Vegas or New York. And that is a form of compromise. But the girl said Switzerland. Like, I think we were starting to see cracks in the foundation. Now we are beginning to, or bigger cracks are beginning to be revealed. Because if she likes to take trips and she was used to taking trips every month and he doesn't, and he, instead of Switzerland, he said Vegas. I don't know. I think that's going to be the source of a lot of arguments for them. Finances and, finances. That's what it boils down to. But let's continue. But like I said, I do appreciate that Rachel is starting to open the lines of communication, because at the beginning of the season, I didn't think she was going to be that type. It seemed like she just wanted to jump in and be in love, but you know, she's kind of pushing the brakes and halting and being like, okay, well, let's talk about this. But back to the bikes, it was a really cute scene. Her kind of learning to ride the bike was really, it was a funny scene. And I liked how patient he was with her when he was trying to teach her how to ride the bike. I liked that. And Rachel brought up an interesting point. She said she still wants to see how things are once they live together. Like, she was like, yeah, we've talked about a couple of things. We've checked a couple of things off the list, but I still need to see how we do when we live together. And I was like, that's a great point. That's a great point. It's all cute right now on the honeymoon, but let's see how things go when we live together. And then, you know, the account situation comes up, and I get what she's saying. Like, it's almost kind of like you're giving me an allowance. Like, we're pulling our money and then you're giving me money. And she was like, that's going to be a really big transition. That's something that we're going to have to discuss and kind of figure it out as it comes. And I thought that was fair. And she's clearly insecure about her finances. Clearly. And that's fair. You're talking to this man and he has an almost perfect credit score. And I can see how it's just so much pressure for you to be like, well, I'm not like that. I don't spend like you. Are you going to be able to handle that? She brought up a good point. And it's what I have been saying in all of my initial reviews. She asked him, she said, well, since you're so perfect, did you ask to be matched with someone as perfect as you are? And they kind of, the producers kind of, or whoever's editing, went past the scene quick, but he basically said like, yeah, I did ask for someone perfect who checked all of my boxes off. So we're gonna see what happens on the next episode with that. I'm looking for fireworks. Hopefully we can get some fireworks. And so on to the rest of the episode. Jose wanted to do something special, so he had like gotten a bottle of wine. And Rachel was like, I could do that. You always want to do something. I can open that wine. And she was like, in fact, you're doing it wrong. I was like, damn, Jose, you got your work cut out for you, because she does not want you doing anything for her. That's gonna be a really big transition for her too. Like, just allowing someone to come in and help her. There's nothing wrong with somebody giving you a hand, girl. And then on the other hand, some things he does are really overbearing. So, y'all, with this boring ass season, let's see how things work out with their finances and Jose needing everything to be perfect, and it clearly coming out that she's nowhere near perfect, and who could be according to his standards. So we'll see. Oh, and then the last thing was Rachel brought up physical or romantic and sexual intimacy, and Jose seemed to be really uncomfortable when she brought this up. And he basically said that certain boxes needed to be checked for him to be open enough to explore taking things further. So to explore sex. And I think reasonably, rationally, and objectively, that's a good answer. But, from what I know about guys, my experience with guys, because that's what I date, they don't be giving a fuck about all that, But it doesn't mean anything's wrong with it. He just wants to be comfortable, and he just wants to check off his boxes. But it gives me pause because, again, that perfectionism is coming up. Is Rachel going to be enough for Jose? Is she going to check off those boxes for him? I don't think she's going to be enough. I think they're doing all this cute lovey-dovey stuff. Oh, we have so much in common. As it turns out, what we're starting to see is they don't have that much in common. And like I said in the last episode, all this lovey-dovey, we have so much in common, is foreshadowing for OMG, we don't have anything in common. How did this happen? So wait and see, but I'm pretty sure they are cruising for bruising, like they're cruising for disaster. And next we have Brett and Ryan, the most boring couple of the season. I really like Brett, I do. But it's just like her with Ryan, them together is as fun as watching paint dry. Okay? But it opens up, Brett is scared of the water, but she goes anyway because she feels comfortable with Ryan. And they get on a kayak. They go out to kayak and they see a manatee, which is massive. That thing was massive. I probably would have freaked out too. I think she actually held it together though, but like, what the fuck is that? I'm not an animal person like that, so I probably would have had a conniption too, but I love the water though. But she did good. I think she did a great job. They went out, they had a race back, and Ryan was like, yeah, whoever loses has to cook dinner in our new place. And I was like, okay, that was cute. And one thing I will say, like Ryan, I'm starting to see more of his personality. While I do think he's a bit on the boring side, I think I'm being unfair. I think he just has really dry humor. And I think he's still not completely sold on Brett, but I can tell that he's trying. So I will give him that. I'll leave him alone. I'll let him have it. And I wrote down he seems to be getting warmer each time I see him. So I'll give him that. And he was really patient with Brett. As if we flash back to the airport when they were going to the honeymoon, he was so irritated with her. And then we flash forward to this episode with the manatee and her almost freaking out, he was really patient and he really talked her through it. And I said, okay, at least we're seeing progress. At least we're seeing forward momentum. Brett said she did say that she feels safe with Ryan. And you know, I can see that. Like, Ryan is a man's man. You could tell he probably wrestles gators. I'm being funny, but I mean, you can look at him and see his presence and know he'll probably whoop some butt. Like, he'll absolutely protect Brett. And I mean, they didn't show too much of them, but they basically kind of talked about, they had small talk and they talked about how things would be living together. And that's basically them. I'll go back to them when I get to the outing with the couples, but that's basically it on Brett and Ryan. Now let's get to Bao and Johnny. Between Bao and Johnny and Gil and Myrla, so Gil and Myrla heated up at the end with the dog, but Bao and Johnny, child, let's get into it. So the episode opens up and guess what they still have in between them? That damn pillow barricade. I'm like, you think they're taking 2 steps forward when in reality they're taking 2 steps backwards. Bao brought up the snoring issue, and I'm getting really irritated. Like, I absolutely know that there are things that we are self-conscious about, and I'm trying to give her grace for that, but I really feel like she's milking it. You're milking it. Why are you dragging this on? You said your piece. Let it be. He's not gonna make fun of you anymore. He's gonna try his best not to. Like, girl, oh, I'm getting irritated. And I like Bao. Johnny also said, you know, at this point in the relationship, if he were doing the dating app stuff and they got to this point in the relationship, he probably would move on to the next person. And I could get that. Like, in a situation where you're not married, and like it's like as soon as you feel like you're getting close to somebody, they push you away with some issue that doesn't seem like a big deal but might be a big deal to them. It's kind of like, ugh, I'm annoyed. I'm gonna move on, okay? So I get it, but I'm trying to be fair to her. Maybe it really is a big deal to her, you know? So I'll give her that. And so they started talking a little deeper, and Bao said that physical intimacy is easy, but connecting emotionally and mentally is hard. I said, well, if it's so easy, why haven't y'all been physically intimate? And it's not me rushing her, but it was such a bold statement. Unless we're seeing something different, right? It was such a bold statement where it was like, well, if that's the easy part, don't get me wrong, she is doing a lot better with touching him and initiating physical touch. But it was something about that. I was like, girl, were you just saying that, or is that really true? Maybe it is, and we'll see. And I think they started talking about how they knew each other again and how that was just so crazy. And Johnny came out and said, well, you know, if you would have approached me back then, I would have been into it. He said, I would have told you I liked you. And I was like, interesting. Very interesting. And I like Johnny. And he did say, like, he likes for women to initiate. That makes him feel comfortable and that makes him feel wanted and loved. But very interesting. And so let's flash forward to the hammock. They get in the hammock and things are a bit awkward. Honestly, things are a bit painfully awkward for a little while in that hammock. And Johnny decides to kind of come clean and let Bao know how he really felt about the conversation that morning. He basically told her the truth about how he feels about her checking out and not really being in the moment. And he said he feels like her mind is somewhere else. And it kind of came up again. He was like, this would normally be the point where I would ask myself, like, is this for me? Is this a situation that I want to be in? I think Bao said something like, you know what, I could see that. I could see the exact moment where you kind of checked out a little bit. She said, I could see it on your face. And so I'm just gonna stop for a second. I think Bao, and I don't think she's doing it on purpose, but I think she flips things to become the victim. Johnny was pouring his heart out. and telling her how he really felt. And then she goes, yeah, I felt judged. I don't think she's doing it on purpose, but she has a tendency when Johnny expresses himself and tells her something that he's not happy with, for her to take that and then somehow flip it around and tell him, something that may or may not be, or may or may not have been a real thing, right? We'll see where that goes. I can kind of see how she's a self-sabotager, because it's like as soon as things are getting good, she just flips it or something happens. And I don't think it's on purpose. But, he basically was like, hey, when things get tough, if I say something to you, and just for the foreseeable future, let's focus on us. Try to stay out of your head and let's focus on what we have going on and building this thing and making it better. And I liked that he said that. Basically, he was like, this is what I need from you. I know that you have a hard time. I know that you're in your head a lot. I know that you analyze things, but I need you to be in the moment. Otherwise, I feel like I'm gonna check out. So I thought that was a really good conversation that they had. And then they went parasailing. I would like to go parasailing. I've never been on a beachy vacation. I've been everywhere, right? I've traveled internationally, but I've never been on a beachy vacation during the summertime. So I'd like to do that. That looked so much fun. It looks beautiful, and they really looked like they had a good time together. And it seemed like they really bounced back from that awkward conversation from the morning and the kind of awkwardness from the hammock. It seemed like things had gotten back on track. And Johnny's been driving conversation in this whole episode. He basically said he feels like if they work together, they can tackle a lot of things that they fear. And then he brought up them living together and kind of if she was scared about that and how that would look. And she confirmed that, yes, she was terrified about living with him. And she starts kind of word vomiting. She mentions that Johnny's clean is probably different from her clean. And then, baby, it goes into her talking about how sometimes she doesn't shower every day. And at first I thought she was going to say she had depression, in which I can get that. But then she goes further. Sometimes I get back from the gym and I don't feel like showering, and I'll just go to sleep in my clothes and I won't take a shower. That's disgusting. Bao, while I like her, is very disgusting. Two things can be true at the same time, right? I can like her and I can also think she's disgusting, because that is disgusting. Johnny was just like, you could tell he was thrown off by it. He didn't really know what to do with that or how to take it, but he basically said well, yes, I am a very cleanly person. And he said, if you're gonna get in the bed without showering, all I ask is that you clean the sheets. You could tell that's not all he's going to ask. You could tell that this is gonna be a huge deal, because Johnny is a clean freak. And while I think Bao is a neat freak and she likes things how she likes them in a particular order, she's dirty. That's dirty. If you're not gonna shower every day, if you're not even gonna shower after the gym, you're a funky thing. You stink. And I'm sure she stinks. He just hadn't said it yet. Maybe he's trying to be nice. Because, he showers a few times a day. I don't see how you can be an adult, and better yet, a woman, and not shower frequently. Like, people stink. You could be up for 2 hours, take a walk around the block, and be funky. Y'all, man, that's disgusting. And so, to wrap it up, Johnny surprises her with sushi, I think. And he told her that he talked to his dad. And he said the call started with, his dad asked him, "Are you married?" And then his dad asked if she was Asian. And then the more Johnny told his dad about her, the more his dad opened up. His dad said that he felt relieved and that he's happy for Johnny. And I don't know Johnny, but that made me really happy for him. It was a really tender and warm moment, and I was genuinely happy for him. It has to be awful to have daddy issues, and it seems like he's kind of been neglected by his dad his whole life. So I was glad he was able to get a moment of happiness with his dad. I still think Johnny needs therapy to be able to detach what Johnny wants for his life and the best that he wants for himself, to be able to detach that from what his father wants from him, because his father's lived his life. You know, he's lived, he's traveled, he's been around, he moved, and he's lived his life. Johnny, you have to live yours. So while I think that was a tender moment, I still think Johnny has a lot of work to do to be able to focus on living his life for himself as opposed to making his parents happy. And then Michaela and Zack, it was short and quick. It just basically showed Zack with his mask on his balcony, and you know, Michaela kind of puppy dog lipping it around, and them both being sad, and that was that. Now let's get to this group outing with the wine and the drinks by the water. Everybody looked so nice. And Zack called them during the episode, and he does what Zack does best. He started talking so much. I mean, he was just rambling basically about how he missed Michaela and how he felt sad and blah, 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 blah. And they kind of shushed him off. And then they got to the stuff. They got down to business. Jose, after they finished that up, Jose was like, yeah, you know, he was like, if it were me and Rachel, I would Romeo and Juliet for her. Basically, like, I would sacrifice myself for her. I would make sure she was good. I would stay and I would take care of her. And so Gil, being the social butterfly that he is, opened up the floor, and he was like, hey, what have you guys learned about each other? So Johnny opens it up and he talks about how him and Bao are learning to communicate. And I agree with that. I think that's true. We have been seeing them communicating openly the past few episodes, and it seems like their communication is getting better. And then the next question was the hardest conversation that everybody had had so far. And Brett just kind of mentioned like how she has a hard time asking questions and initiating serious conversations. And she said that they really hadn't talked about much, and they really haven't. Not really like super serious stuff like kids and this and that. So I'm guessing maybe in the next episode we'll see them kind of tackling tougher subjects. Baby Gil asked about political differences, and it's clear that Ryan is a Republican. I don't know if Gil is. Maybe he was just asking to ask. I couldn't tell. But it was things got very awkward, you know, really fast. And Myrla was just basically like, no, that's an instant divorce. I can't be friends with you. I can't be married with you. It's just our ideals are too different. And I get both sides. I want to say that I'm reasonable and adult enough to be able to be married to a Republican if I was set up in an arranged marriage. But then on the other side, I'm not adult enough to be able to do that. I think the differences are too large, and I think we'd clash, and it just wouldn't be healthy. And then Gil started rambling, and I'm like, are you drunk? Like, what's going on? But Myrla was not having any of it at all. And you could tell it was making Ryan really uncomfortable. And then you could tell that was also making Brett really uncomfortable. And so we move on. Johnny asked if anybody had consummated the marriage. You know, everybody was really surprised that like Jose and Rachel hadn't did the horizontal hokey pokey. And who said it? Ryan was like, well, none of us have done it, but my guess would be Zack and Michaela. They'd be the first people to do it, and little does he know. Okay, I was like, okay, Ryan. And then Bao fixed her mouth to say like, between her and Johnny, the sexual intimacy is there. They just haven't done it yet. And I was just like, so are the cameras not showing us everything? Because yes, she has done a better job at like touching him and initiating physical touch, but I don't see any physical intimacy with them. Actually, when they start kissing and they embrace, she acts like a 4-year-old and she giggles. So maybe I'm missing something. And I absolutely could be. And then to the boat, they get on the boat, everybody's kicking it, hanging out, and somebody has an idea to play Never Have I Ever. So they're doing like silly stuff like never have I ever been scuba diving, never have I ever been rock climbing, never have I ever went streaking. Ryan was like, go, took that shit to the head. And then it came out like never have I ever had a one-night stand. Bao politely was like, she politely took it to the head. And she was like, oh guys, you know, I was young. It was a long time ago. And then somebody dropped the question, never have I ever cheated. And Myrla and Rachel, Myrla was like, shit. Yeah, you know, it was a long time ago. One thing about it, Myrla is real with hers. And Rachel was like, it's really a long time ago. I was young and stupid. And if looks could kill, the way Jose looked would have killed everybody on that boat. He was holding her hand. And then once she said that, he was like, get off of me, get off of me. He couldn't even look at her. He was so disgusted. And I think he's gonna hold a grudge with that. I think she might have to work a little overtime to kind of get back in his good graces, because that was insane. Like really get back in his good graces. So let's see. They go paddleboarding. Everybody's doing good. Everybody's got in the water. And then Johnny goes out to the middle of the ocean, and then he jumped off. I guess he couldn't figure out how to turn around, and then he got back on the boat. And then here comes the Coast Guard, but they kept going. They didn't even stop, they kept going. And he figured out how to get back, so all was well. And then Rachel brought up a good conversation. She was like, basically putting pride to the side and letting someone take care of you, and how hard that's been for her. And Brett agreed. Brett agreed that it's been hard letting Ryan take care of her, but she also said he doesn't give her any choice. Like, he's just like, I'm gonna take care of you. So I think if they both would just kind of, to a degree, right, without being overbearing, I think if they just kind of both step back and relax a little bit, they might enjoy somebody kind of helping out and letting someone take care of them. Just throwing it out there. And then they talked about dating in general, and how maybe if it were online dating, how you'd be really superficial, but how this process is so different because you're married, so you can't be superficial and you can't walk away. Like, you're forced to try to work through whatever the differences are. And basically, you know, the honeymoon's over, and let's get to the flash forward. So this is the move-in episode. So we're gonna see all the couples move in together. They showed a clip where Brett was with one of the experts, and she said that Brett and Ryan, and she did say that she has a crush on Ryan. So that's progress. They showed a clip of Bao and Johnny where Bao refused to shower, and you could tell that she had been to the gym. She had on gym clothes. I'm so disgusted. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You ought to you stink, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Stinky self. Stink. That makes no sense. And he basically said, after this, I'm going home. Like, to his house. So we're gonna see, y'all. Listen, that's probably gonna be at the end of the damn season, and they're just showing us that to keep us enticed and involved. But we'll see. And then Gil mentioned something about a divorce. I said, oh, they ain't gonna show that shit to the end, but it's getting spicy. And they showed Michaela cussing Zack out. Cussing his tail out. Michaela's crazy. And I tried to tell y'all in my previous reviews of this daggum season, she's insane. Now, I can understand you being upset for somebody not coming home and expressing that. out of your mouth communicating. But she was like slamming stuff and throwing stuff and screaming. She needs professional help. And there's nothing wrong with that. I receive professional help. I'm sure a lot of people on YouTube and out there in the world also are receiving professional help. Something's wrong with her. She has anger issues, and it's not cute and it's not okay. And listen, Zack not coming home, that's not okay either. We need to figure that out. Is he cheating? Was he just kicking it with his friends? Does he not communicate well? Did he not say anything to her? I'd like to see what's going on, but it looks like things are about to get spicy and explosive. I wish they would hurry up, you know, because it's so hard to watch this and stay engaged when nothing's happening. But hopefully we can get a little bit of juice, you know, the next episode. But if you have made it this far in the review, thank you so much for watching. That's all I have for this episode. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much.